Well, I'm never going to be able to listen to the Bangles' Eternal Flame the same ever again. Thanks, movie! Here are my immediate thoughts on Speak No Evil. Speak No Evil is the latest psychological horror from Jason Blum and Blumhouse Productions and stars James McAvoy. Written and directed by James Watkins, a remake of the 2022 Danish film of the same name. The film stars James McAvoy, Mackenzie Davis, Franciosi, Alix West Lefler, Hough, and Scoot McNairy, and follows an American family who get invited to stay at a remote farmhouse by a British couple for the weekend. But the family soon learns that the family who invited them are actually serial killers. So as I said, this is a remake of a Danish film from 2022, and I haven't watched it. I think it's on Shudder right now, but I didn't want to watch it because I didn't want to get spoiled watching this movie. So I'm actually going to go back and watch the original. I'll probably do a review for that as well, just to do a comparison. So if I was going to give a description of Speak No Evil, I would call this a horror of manners. So we have a comedy of manners, and that's, a plot where a lot of the humor is derived from how politely people speak to each other and, a lot of the microaggressions and, kind of side digs that people give to each other. And we kind of get the same thing here in this film. The film follows a family, Ben, played by Scoot McNairy, Louise, played by Mackenzie Davis, and their daughter, Agnes, played by Alix West Lefler. And they are an American family living in London. Now, Ben and Louise are having some marital issues. Ben originally transplanted his entire family to London for a job, but he is unemployed, and his wife is getting dick pics from another man. On top of all of that, Agnes seems to be on the spectrum and has an attachment to a stuffed bunny that, for some reason, seems to be bothering the hell out of Ben. Dude, have some empathy for your daughter. No wonder your wife wants to see dick pics of someone else. The family is on vacation in Italy when they run into another rambunctious and free-spirited family. Patty, played by James McAvoy, his wife Kiera, played by Franciosi, and their son Ant, played by Hough. And Ant has a condition where his tongue is smaller than the normal humans, which renders him mute. After a meet-cute where Ant is able to rescue Agnes's lost stuffed bunny, the two families seem to hit it off and things seem to go well until we see that things are a little off. But see, here's where the manners come into play, because normally when you're on vacay and you meet new people, you don't want to be assholeish. I'm Canadian. I want to be polite. It's as much a part of my bloodstream as maple syrup and Bret Hart theme song. And this movie asks a question. When is the appropriate time to be polite? And when is the appropriate time to be like, motherfucker, step off? And let me say, a lot of the problem in this movie is Ben and his eagerness to please. Mackenzie Davis from the jump is like, yeah, this family's a little strange. Sure, they're pleasant, but there's something not right about them. They're a little too aggressive. They like to make weird sexual passes from time to time. There is a scene in a restaurant that is absolutely wild that has to do with Felicia. But how do you tell strangers to step off without sounding too douchey? So the experience between the two families are pleasant enough that Patty and Kiera invite Ben and Louise to their English countryside. Now I get it. When you meet new people and you're on vacation and sometimes you get a little drink in you, maybe a little bit of the leaf, and your inhibitions open up and you become a little suggestible to dumb suggestions like visiting strangers you just met in the open English countryside. The conversation is usually like, oh man, you should link up with us when you get to town. Yeah, let's do that. But really, 90% of the time, that never happens. But James McAvoy looks at you and you're compelled to do so. I mean, you sort of have to. Dude's 5% body fat now. He'll just put you to sleep. And this is one of the things about Speak No Evil that really works. James McAvoy is awesome in this, and I've always been a fan of his, but ever since his turn in Split, I've really changed my opinion on what this guy can do in his range, and with every new role of his, it is just great seeing him work. And in Speak No Evil, he plays Patty as a truly unhinged person who masks his psychopathy behind a guise of what I'll call aggressive politeness. But Patty is also very charming, seemingly very educated, very funny. Yes, this movie is a dark comedy at times, and very, very manipulative. Emphasis on man. He basically convinces Louise, a vegetarian, to eat a piece of cooked goose that he made for their dinner. And instead of just saying, no, that's just against my value system, she eats it because she doesn't want to come off like a bitch. And everything with Patty is essentially a power play. Over time, he becomes more combative, pushes the envelope of boundary pushing, and yes, becomes abusive. There is a moment of child abuse that we see in this movie, and we see it in the trailer. I can never listen to Cotton Eye Joe the same ever again. And yes, this should have chased this family away, and under normal circumstances, it would have. But one of the things that I do give Speak No Evil credit for is putting this family in a situation where it seems like that they should leave, and at times feels like that they can't. Now, that doesn't excuse all the dumb decisions that this family makes, but it excuses some of them. And everyone is good at playing up this awkward rising tension where we see one family become more and more unhinged and the other one really just try to play it off just to survive. Mackenzie Davis is really good here as Louise. She loves her family, but she is a frustrated spouse dealing with Ben and all of his failures. Louise is basically the audience avatar. We see through her eyes how unhinged everything is going on around her, and essentially how useless of a husband Ben is. And Scoot McNairy is really good at playing, I don't want to say an emasculated performance, even though that definitely will come out at times, but just as someone who feels more or less powerless in the situation that he's in. There are moments where you can see Ben viewing Patty as a conduit for all of the frustrations and failings that Ben feels as a man. There's a really good scene where Ben and Patty climb up a hill and share a moment of emotional catharsis through screaming, and it really shows this bond between these two men. And you can see that poor Ben just wants to be a good provider, but the dude is just a fuck up. But Patty isn't alone in this. His wife, Kiera, played by Aisling Franciosi, is very good in this, and she plays things off where we really don't know if she is really just a victim of Patty's abuse, if they're in a toxic relationship, or if she is just as fucked up as he is. Together, Patty and Kiera give off a wonderful natural born killers vibe that I really appreciated. The child actors in this are really good. Alix West Lefler is really great as Agnes, and you really feel for her, especially when she's having some of her episodes. I have a nephew that is on the spectrum, so those moments really got to me. I really got those. But the real standout to me is Dan Hough as Ant. He has to give a wordless physical performance, and he knocks it out of the park. The chemistry he had with Agnes is great, and if you ever want to see a kid lose his ever-loving shit but still be like, go on kid, get yours, this is the movie for you. So this is a horror movie where we have our protagonists in a situation where they have to polite themselves out of a terrible scenario. They also have to find it within themselves to resort to violence that they just may not be prepared for. And this reminded me of films like The Hills Have Eyes and Straw Dogs, where you have a timid family and you push them and push them and push them and push them until someone's like, I'm about to cut a bitch. Now, I will say, does the movie work all the way? I mean, when you think of the plot and Patty and Kira's scheme, it becomes a little implausible, and then you think, yeah, there are some really dumb decisions that the characters make in this movie, but it is horror, so I do expect that. Now, I will say that those dumb decisions did not take me out of this movie. Also, this sort of feels like something James Watkins was going for if the audience reaction I had around me was any indication. Overall, Speak No Evil is a creepy, unsettling little tale with bite as we follow a family who is too polite for their own good and they have to find a way out of it. All of the performances were great for me, especially that of James McAvoy, Mackenzie Davis, and Dan Hough. I appreciated the rising tensions as things between these two families began to devolve, and that veil of honesty and politeness transformed into a pretty bloody good time. I can't speak on the Danish film as I haven't seen that, but this was a definite crowd pleaser that had some genuine scares, chilling moments, and truly vile moments of manipulation and violence. Yes, there are some issues with the plot, and the movie was a little long for my liking. It felt like the third act just kept going. But generally, I very much enjoyed my time with this one. Speak No Evil is a super hit for me. This movie has simply taught me that when you are on vacation and you meet up with a douche canoe, it is better to call them out in real time than be politulated into a situation where you just become another set of dumb, dead bodies. What did you think of Speak No Evil? Share your thoughts, leave your comments, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to hit that bell icon so you can get notifications as well. Thanks a lot, everyone. Take care.